Good morning, BookTube. By the time this goes up, it might be good afternoon. I am here today to do the Picture This book tag. It's a tag created by Jack at Spread Book Joy and Shelly Swearingen at her channel, Shelly Swearingen's Library. Stay tuned. All right, so in case you haven't noticed my fluffy hat, I'm at the beach and it's very cold. It's not very sunny beach weather. It's cold and windy. And one fun thing about BookTube, at least for me, is that vanity has kind of gone out the window. Sometimes I have to make a video and I'm like, well, I'm not going to go put on a bunch of makeup and style my hair and all this because I just have to get this video out. So I apologize, but I'm at the beach, it's my vacation, and I admit, I woke up this morning and I already saw this tag. MJ did it and Sandy did it, and I was just like, oh wow, those are so good. I was gonna do it next week after my vacation, but you see, the Picture This readathon is only this month, so I wanted to, kind of rush and get this out there to support the Picture This readathon because it's so very important to me. And I hope to do a video. I have some children's books I want to share with you too. So I want to talk about the Picture This readathon briefly. The idea that picture books are important and they're fun, not just for adults, but to read to young people. It really does have a lot to do with helping young people to develop as readers. I did a whole video on Marianne Wolf's Reader Come Home that talks about the science behind that, the research behind that. So thank you, Shelly and Jack, for this very important project. Okay, question number 1. I Love You Forever, written by Robert Munsch and illustrated by Shelia McGraw. Name a book you imagine you will love forever. And of course, I can't name just one. So I would definitely say The 5 People You Meet in Heaven is a wonderful book that I love and always recommend. Chicka Chicka Boom Boom is one that I just really have such fond memories reading that to my children, and I just love it. I love the rhythm of it. And then The Crippled Lamb I read every Christmas by Max Lucado. That's a children's book. It has such a dear place in my heart because it's the story of a lamb who doesn't fit in with the other lambs because of his leg, and he gets excluded, and because of that he gets to be in the stable when Jesus is born. And so the whole book is about how bad things can happen for good reasons and wonderful things can result from what we think is bad. I'm just gonna slip it in there real quick. I have to say, one time I heard the analogy that when you're looking at life, think of it as a tapestry, and God's up there weaving this beautiful, beautiful tapestry, and it's got all this detail and all these colors on the side that he's looking at. But from our side, if you've ever seen a real tapestry, all we see are the knots. And I love that analogy, and I think The Crippled Lamb is a good illustration of that. Question number 2, Alexander the Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Day, written by Judith Viorst. I don't have my glasses on because they have that tint and I would look really weird because my glasses would get dark outside. Illustrated by Ray Cruz. Which books or comforting things do you turn to when you are having a bad day? Well, for me, that would be the Bible. And I recite verses when I'm really stressed out. I mean, sometimes when I'm just really feeling anxious, I go, do not be anxious about anything, but in all things by prayer and petition, make your requests known to God, and the peace that surpasses understanding will guard your heart and mind. And then sometimes I pray that to God. God, please do not let me be anxious about anything. Please give me that peace, So I know some of you don't want to be preached at, so I will stop there. But I do have to say that the Bible would be my answer. So I'm going to be honest there. I'm unashamed. Number 3, The Very Hungry Caterpillar by Eric Carle. Which book, series, or character sparked your hunger for reading? And at first I was thinking Dr. Seuss, because I had dyslexia and I remember the rhyming and the phonemic awareness is so important with dyslexia, with the reading in general. But actually what I remember just devouring were the S.E. Hinton books. When I was in middle school, I just couldn't get enough of S.E. Hinton, and I read book after book after book. And I was fascinated by the fact that S.E. Hinton was actually a teenage girl. And I just loved S.E. Hinton books. Number 5, Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. That's another famous favorite in our house. We love that book. What is your favorite book featuring the natural world? And I would say my mind goes to Jane Harper, and I would say she has 2 books that feature, well, most of her books. Actually, all 3 books that I've read feature the natural world, and any one of them you could argue. But I'm going to go with The Dry because it's the first book in the series, and I love The Dry by Jane Harper. Highly recommend The Dry. And it was also turned into a movie, like not a major movie, but like on Amazon Prime. I ordered it for a couple bucks, and my son and I watched it because he's in school to be a forensic accountant. So we loved it, and the movie version of the book. And the reason I picked The Dry is because you have to read the book to really understand my answer, but they're in very dry Australian land. And the fact that the land is so dry is pivotal to the climax, the turning point of the story. The dryness of the land has everything to do with why the plot turns in the direction that it turns later in the book. So that's why I'm picking The Dry for my answer. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go read it because it's a fantastic book. Okay, Goodnight Moon by Margaret Wise Brown, another one that I know by heart, from reading to my kids at night. I'm sorry, this is very much on the fly, like unprepared. This is me raw. Anyway, Goodnight Moon, illustrated by Margaret Wise Brown and illustrated. Do you read at bedtime? Do you read to someone else at bedtime? Did anyone ever read to you at bedtime? And I will say not necessarily at bedtime. Like, books are an integral part of my life. I read to my children when I could. My children kind of rejected that. They're not really readers, but I tried. And my older son does read the Bible before bed, though. He did tell me that. But I will say, in answer to the question, what we do, instead of reading at night, I'm going to spin it in my direction. I will say that we enjoy making up stories. When my older son, when there was a thunderstorm and he was afraid, I was trying to comfort him. And so I made up a story about our cats, right? We had this cat. His name was Spunky. He's, God rest his soul, but he was a tuxedo cat, with the white paws. And so he looked like he was in a tuxedo. So I just goofing around trying to comfort my son who was worried during the storm, and I said, I am a Spunky, the Italian mafia cat, and I will break your face. And I just made up a story about the adventures of Spunky. Spunky go after my Che Bella, and my Che Bella, I tried to give her the lasagna, and somebody interrupted her, so I beat him up, And I mean, that's terrible. That's an awful accent, and I apologize, but when there's a storm and you're trying to comfort your kid, you do what you got to do. So we made up stories. They started with Spunky and the cats, and then sometimes we'd make up stories about my son's teachers or the neighbors. Nothing offensive, just silly stories, One story, our neighbor stole chicken legs from our bucket of fried chicken and ran on his roof and ate them. I mean, silly things, but not reading, but more, not even the act of writing, but creating stories. I enjoy doing that with my children. Okay. That might be a little too much for some of you. But anyway, that's my answer. Number 7, guess how much I love you. Who had the biggest influence on you as a reader? And that would be my mom. I can remember when I was sick, she would go out and buy popsicles and the golden books with the spines. And I remember that was so special. And I had, severe dyslexia as a child. So my mother was determined that I would overcome that dyslexia, and she fought really hard with the schools to help me and eventually put me in private school, and just always telling me, you can do this, you can do this. And she would take me to Crown Books. I haven't seen a Crown Books in years. They're probably out of business. But when I was a little girl, she would take me to Crown Books, and that was the only store I could have anything I wanted. And so I would just shop, whatever I wanted, and she would buy it, no questions asked. So I definitely am the reader I am today because of my mother. who died of brain cancer a few years ago. So, but anyway, she definitely left that legacy of reading with me. The Giving Tree, which is one that my parents did read to me often. Which set of books would you give to an emerging reader, or which would you have given as a gift more than once? To me, that's two separate questions. I loved MJ's answer. I have to say that. I loved her answer. I'll put her channel below. And she said, well, I don't want to impose my views on somebody else. And so I just find out from them what they like to read. And I was just like, yay! I absolutely agree. But I interpreted the question emerging reader, someone who's struggling with learning how to read, like a toddler. And so I said Dr. Seuss because that's my background. I'm in graduate school studying the reading brain and dyslexia. And so I know the importance of phonemic awareness is so crucial. And so Dr. Seuss, because of the rhyming and the predictability, that has a lot to do with reading. So that would be my answer. But then when it asks, which book have you given as a gift more than once? That's been The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I've given that gift to people when tragedy strikes their lives, because it's a book about tragedy and how beauty can come from tragedy and how the power to forgive and move on can transcend us. And I just love that book. And I've given that as gifts to people. And, because I've had my own tragedies in life. I'm not going to get into that. But, there's nothing worse than somebody coming up to you and, oh, I know how you feel. Or maybe they want to tell you their problems. I've had that happen to me, and it's awful. So I have found, at least from my own personal tragedy, that just getting a card in the mail or getting something to read. One time somebody sent a journal in the mail, and that ended up being a huge blessing, and I just poured my heart out in the journal. And sometimes, if people are just sitting there and they're upset and they're feeling alone, having a book, and maybe The 5 People You Meet in Heaven can let them know that they're not alone. So that's one that I have given as a gift. Okay, so I did not tag anybody because it says Jack at Spread Book Joy and Shelly Swearingen, they're opening this tag up to anybody. And so I want to put it out there for anybody who wants to join in the fun. And I am at the beach. I'm hoping to get a beach vlog out here. For those of you who have seen my earlier vlogs, I know they're not great. And my son, my middle school son, he's like, Mom, you shouldn't be a vlogger. You're just not good at it. So this next vlog I'm thinking of doing, I can't remember who. If I could remember, I'd give you credit. But I saw somebody's vlog, and it was just music and the different scenery. And I thought that was so cool. So I'm going to try to do that, put up a video of just different scenery around the beach. I'll do that later, hopefully this week. But anyway, and I'll try to get a video out about young reading books, like picture books for the Picture This tag. But in the meantime, I wanted to get this out there on Tag Tuesday because I love you guys. I love you so much. I'm out here with no makeup and my floppy hat. Just keeping it real, because I want to share the tag, and I'm so grateful to be tagged. And so thank you all, especially thank you to Shelly and Jack, and I hope you're out there too, wherever you are, reading a good book. Bye for now.